Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about local knowledge. First-hand knowledge in country is far more valuable when compared to hearsay. Local and indigenous knowledge refers to the understandings, skills, and philosophies developed by societies with long histories of interaction with their natural surroundings. For rural and indigenous people, local knowledge informs decision-making about fundamental aspects of day-to-day life. So this topic came about because Duct Tape and I were discussing wage earnings for people who live in different parts of the country. And we were talking about what constitutes a living wage or a decent wage or even good pay in a certain area. He said something about the majority of the South don't make decent pay compared to other places. We'll say unskilled because you have a lot of journeymen who travel between different regions based on their skills, really. One example of that is the film industry. And
you know about that. I don't know about that one.
I do. So a really good cinematographer can make $1,000 a day on a film set. And even more if it's a commercial, because the longer the duration, your pay will be stretched out over time. Whereas if it's just a 3-day shoot or a 1 or 2 day shoot, then it's concentrated into the shorter amount of time.
The biggest difference with that is how much work you get. If you're doing a project, the projects might not, come as quick, but when you do work, it's a big check. It's a bang. Like I said, the way the conversation really went down was I was talking about wages. Now, I'm sure it's been 4 or 5 years, but the wages down south were different. And you would talk about, I had a homegirl that was like a mid-aide, and she's telling me that she's in Arkansas, when she was in Arkansas, that she was making $13 an hour. I'm like, what? This day and age? And she's like, yeah, I get up here and it's 17 to 20. And that's why a lot of people from down south who got a good work ethic come up here and they just start working. Same thing, my wife, her ex-husband. He was a prison guard in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and he was making $13 an hour, 12 something. For a dangerous fucking job. Like he got attacked once, But we got a homeboy up here. He's a fireman now, but at one point he was working at the youth detention center. He was making $17, $18 an hour. I think he wanted to go to the prison because it made $21 an hour, and then I think he thought better of it. But that's when you talk about local knowledge. When we were talking about, the Mecca is Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia is different. If you're in Atlanta, which you are, stuff that I don't know, but the pay is much better. But the surrounding areas, Mississippi, Tennessee, which I'm talking about Memphis. I'm not talking about the rural
for this main reason is why people in smaller cities or even towns leave their home for a better shot at what goals they want to accomplish in life.
I think when you're younger, when you first leave, it's just for pussy. It's for sex. It's for. But then you get there and find out, damn.
But that wasn't my motivation. My motivation.
Oh no, not for you.
Working in the film industry, and so I always knew that wherever I would go, it'd be some beautiful women there. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to a place where beautiful women are.
Yeah.
That's not the motivation. If that's why you're going, buddy, you're going for the wrong fucking reasons. Because it's like DJ Quick said, first you get the power, then you get the money, then you get the pussy. Fool don't be no dummy.
I remember one of my homeboys, the reason he left Omaha, he had 5 kids, him and his wife. His second oldest or his oldest son, I think his second oldest is Junior, right? Junior gets in trouble with the law, and he's like, I'm not letting my son get in the system. So as soon as they arrest him, they move. He gets out, bonds him out of jail, whatever. They talk about going to youth services. He packs up and moves to the Washington, Oregon. I think it's Washington. He's like, look, I got family up here. We were thinking about moving anyway. We out. You are not about to sit here and label my son or get him, in a situation that he can't get out of where he can't have a gun or he can't have a life later on, or you're going to try to diagnose him with some shit. He's like, we out. Fuck it. And Ray left, moved his kids and left. So trust me, I don't know why he picked. I think there was a reason he picked it, and that this goes to that local knowledge thing where there was he's like, look, they'll help you get a car faster up there. It's the same thing, like, I'm in Omaha, I'm in the Midwest area, and Council Bluffs is across the bridge. But if you move to Council Bluffs, they'll get you a car, they'll get you housing, they'll get you stuff faster because of the casinos. The casinos, they have a lot more disposable income. You think of this little Iowa town, you're not thinking of government services, but since they have the casinos, they got a little bit of money to burn, and they if you're poor,
But you don't have to live over there. It's only 10 minutes over the bridge.
it's not even 10. Well, for me, it's 10. But where we grew up at, it wasn't 10 minutes. It's just you jump on the interstate, you go over the bridge, and so a lot of people are going now here on the flip side of local knowledge. If you work in Iowa, excuse me, if you work in Omaha, but you live in Iowa, they have a separate balanced tax. They'll tax you for living in Iowa, so that way, like, look, you're making your money over here, so we got an extra 6%. Because we know that you're paying less money to live in Iowa. Iowa costs less to live there. The state taxes are less, but if you make your money in Omaha, we gonna tax you.
New York, the tax it's like 10% and something.
I know Chicago. I thought was the worst, but you know who's worse than Chicago? Detroit. I remember I was bouncing in a club. No, excuse me, I was going in a club in Nashville, and the bouncer was from Detroit. So we're talking. He's like, "Yeah," he said, y'all got a federal tax. You got state tax, but we got city tax and county tax. I'm like, county tax? What the fuck you need a county tax for?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's like, and I remember the stories of how destitute Detroit was. How bad it had got. So I'm like,
where's the money going to?
It ain't going towards the housing. I mean, I guess it is now. Remember the NBA player Derek Coleman? He went broke trying to save the city. He started he made all that money. Remember, he had the shoe deal, Diamond Cell with BK and all that stuff. And he was trying to do what Work Done did, where he was providing houses for people successfully. It didn't work. I don't know if somebody said the politicians got that nigga. It wasn't like the houses got too expensive. It was like you got to damn near grease the palms of everybody. There's legal bribery, and that shit just sucked his money dry. But people talk about Work Done. Literally, he's made 200 something houses for people. That's what Derek Coleman tried to do back then, and it didn't work because you got so many greedy politicians that leech the nigga dry.
A lot of people didn't know that Roger Troutman from Zap, famous Ohio musician that people think is from the West Coast, and his music formed the West Coast funk and gangsta sound, but this dude is really from Ohio.
Cleveland or Cincinnati? I couldn't remember.
He is from Dayton. He's born in Hamilton, Ohio, but he died in Dayton, Ohio. But check this out. So a lot of people don't know that in Ohio, he spent a bunch of money buying up real estate and renting homes to people who didn't have a lot of money. And then, he would do the lease to buy thing. A lot of people did not know that shit.
I think Gerald Levert was a big Ohio guy that was doing all kinds of stuff. Again, that's that local knowledge. That's that stuff that when you go someplace, like, I want to see this house. I want to see this.
Dude, Roger was only 47 when he died.
Yeah, his brother shot him.
That's crazy. I thought he was older than that.
It was over the group stuff, but also it's been over 10 years, right? About 11 years. So that's But either way, it was sad when Roger and Zap. The group was called Zap, and the lead singer was Roger, but those were his siblings, I think, like his brothers and his cousins and sisters. So I think one of the brothers got jealous or whatever.
Yeah, he was shot outside his recording studio in Dayton.
I miss Roger. He was ahead of his time. Like he had a song in the 70s called "Computer Love" about online dating before online dating even existed. So decide what you say.
Local knowledge also pertains to history. Here are several examples of where local knowledge provides the most benefits. In agriculture, knowledge related to crop selection, intercropping, and planting times, and also the terroir, or the soil composition, or the microclimates that exist in that area. Will there be a lot of condensation in the morning? Is there a mist that falls in this area in the morning?
Fungus.
Is there water in the air? Mold, and all
local
that.
Insect life, all
exactly.
that shit.
Or like if there's actually what they call tobacco mosaic virus, which affects a lot of shit and can fuck up an entire crop. But then there's animal husbandry and ethnic veterinary medicine. So the knowledge of breeding strategies, livestock characteristics and requirements, and plant uses to treat common illnesses. And I'm going to circle back to that in just a second. Now, also in the use and management of natural resources, such as knowledge of the soil fertility or soil composition, and the management of wild species of plants. And then there's healthcare, the knowledge of plant properties for medicinal purposes. So I sent you a show, an audio clip, and it was talking about how the black herbal healers in the United States have utilized the plants that are within that region. And this is where local knowledge really comes to bear, because the indigenous people in this country, or people who were brought to this country who were indigenous from other places, they had to look at the plants and determine, okay, is this harmful or not? Let me take a tiny piece off of this and rub it on my skin and see if there's going to be a reaction. There were these first people. There was always the first people that had to test out these plants and figure out what is fatal, what isn't. Can I boil this? Can I drink this? Can I grind it into a powder and put it on and rub it on my skin to make like a salve?
But that's what voodoo and hoodoo is.
But not just that though. It's also just like people figuring out is what I can use around here. Another really good one that'll keep you alive is finding edible plants in your area.
Well, the one thing that she said that has me really curious, she said they brought dandelions with them in their braids. And I'm like, so are dandelions not native to America? You know, are they native to someplace else? Because she mentions this in this recording that you sent me. And it made me wonder, because we don't realize what plants were, like strawberries are like the Moors. They brought those everywhere with them. You know, literally these people that traveled had to bring food with them. And so they would bring seeds so they can plant the seeds. In South America, there's a couple banana plants. Like literally, they were these black people that were amongst the South Americans, and when they died, they planted a banana tree. So there's literally people that bring stuff with them, and we don't realize. I think this medicinal stuff, we all need to take a better look at that. I think that we've been brainwashed to think that a pill is better than nature, and it's not. So that's some real deal shit you're talking about, that black herbalist shit. And she mentioned dandelions, and everybody tells you dandelion root heals everything. Just like the black oil seeds, which are cumin seeds, heal everything.
Yeah, but then she brought up George Washington Carver and the things that George Washington Carver created but introduced. So she said that the peanut, what he did for the peanut, what he found out, it was actually used for infant paralysis.
Yes, infantile paralysis, yes.
And when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, that's crazy, because everybody, like she said, is all about, well, peanut butter. Like, no, that is actually the last thing or the most popular thing that he introduced to Western society.
There's a recording of his voice because we had talked about it being, so high. But he talks about using it to cure the peanut by itself. Use it to cure infantile paralysis. And so when you hear that stuff, you're like, he wasn't on some just sustaining, just making a sandwich. No, he was on making the world better for everybody through natural remedies, through natural things. He to talk about him is really frustrating because of Black History Month, and people talk about the peanut and the sweet potato. And that was not everything he did.
But see, your contention was that he was not born a slave. He was born a slave on a Missouri farm in 1865, right as the Civil War was about to end.
So I just knew he was adopted by a white family in Iowa.
After, I know he was. So he became the first black student and the first black faculty member at what is now Iowa State University. But he left Missouri and went to Iowa when he was still small. Yeah. But he also promoted the idea of crop rotation to preserve soil fertility.
Well, also not just fertility, it was the fact that those nitrates, when you plant peanuts, it replaces the nitrates that these other things were taken out. So it was a rotation. Look, the other
he
thing
developed hundreds of products using peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans.
And he did not patent them. He made them so anybody can use. So if he had patented them, he'd be rich as hell. And look this up. Back in the day when he was doing all these things, Thomas Edison offered him $200,000 back then. Not $200,000. See, people $200,000 in today's money. No, he offered him $200,000 to come work for him in his lab back then. And he's like, "No, Miss Edison, fuck you. I don't need you." He was close with Henry Ford. His idea, I think, had to do with the tires and stuff like that, plastic. all that shit.
So he was cool with Henry Ford. As Carver aged, Ford made sure an elevator was installed in the dorm at Tuskegee where Carver lived throughout his tenure.
Yeah, my point being is that this motherfucker was so much more amazing than we were taught as kids. We were taught as kids that, yeah, peanuts, yeah. But no, the guy he was a professor at Tuskegee. He was a professor at ISU, Iowa State University, and they still have a lot of his art on display there. He became an artist. He was an artist the whole time. And when you see these drawings of plants and these watercolors, fucking amazing. No bullshit.
Okay, so that brings me to the part where this woman was talking about how he would go out and he would talk to the plants. Let me tell you where I have heard this before. So, I studied the writings of Carlos Castaneda. Carlos Castaneda wrote a series of books about a Arizona Indian sorcerer named Don Juan Matus. Now, Don Juan Matus would go out and he would pick psychedelic plants, but he would have conversations with the plants. He would talk to them, and what they would say back to him is how he would determine which one gave him the best information to reach the other side or get the information, what they call the nawal, the other. So, but see, hold on. People think, now, because you struck a chord when you talk about his George Washington Carver's paintings and illustrations of these plants. Only a person who has intimate knowledge of botany can see and do things like that. So, or would care to do something like that. But listen, so then people think you're a crazy nut job,
not at all.
Pun intended, because you're out here talking to plants. But then, come to find out, recently, that plants have intelligence and they communicate with each other, and they even secrete these chemical compounds that make them unpalatable. Listen to me. That make them unpalatable or even more bitter when a nearby plant is being eaten by a bug or an animal.
They're being threatened, yeah.
So they found that grass was being grazed by cattle was sweet in certain areas and bitter in other areas. And when the closer that the cattle would move to the sweeter ones, it would start to become bitter, because through this neural network underneath the ground in the soil, in the mycelium, the fungus underground, they would communicate.
Yep.
And they would tell each other, hey, put your defenses on because these motherfuckers are trying to eat us. Dude, that's crazy.
Hold on. Onions do the same thing. That's why if you don't cut the bottom part of the onion off, you'll start crying. That is a defense mechanism. But go back to what you said about 4 minutes ago when you were talking about the first one tasting. That's why I don't think it went that way. I think they had intimate knowledge and they were communicating with the plants. That's how they knew what to eat, what not to eat. Not by sampling, by
but everybody ain't a Jedi. So you have varying degrees of intelligence. So you have the people who were the Jedis and be like, these are good plants. And then you have motherfuckers who do like, all right, look, I ain't on that Jedi shit. I'm just a Padawan. So I'm gonna fucking just rub this shit.
Nigga.
Yeah.
You got the hammer and the nail nigga. They just had but I'm simply saying that was the crazy part between hoodoo and voodoo. People don't realize there's a difference. One is more about the natural and how things work in plant life and stuff like that. And the other one is a little bit more spiritual. But the bottom line is they both have the same results. They are real, and that shit really works. And you can see that shit with the pufferfish, with a pufferfish venom or whatever it is, where they make zombies. Clearly, you couldn't find that shit out under normal circumstances. So I got some local knowledge for you. This is something. When I was a child, I went to Mexico twice, and Mexican food in Mexico ain't that good. I'm just telling you now. I was pissed off. Like the street tacos.
When did you go to Mexico?
Remember when I used to go to California, and we would jump on a bus and we just go over there. No passport, no nothing. And so
that's
I
when you can do that shit.
Yes, and so I remember everybody going over there and buying the vanilla, because the vanilla was like super alcoholic. It was like the most powerful vanilla in the world. And we would go over there, get the shit, and we buy some stuff. And I'm like the street tacos, delicious. Like the shit on the street had flavor. But you would go to a Mexican restaurant, Man, I was super disappointed because I'm like, shit, Taco Bell's, man. Season, there was no seasoning. I was like, what the hell? I was so disappointed. Now again, I was a kid. I was probably what 8, 9 years old.
But it was bland tasting,
Man, dude, I was so not
which
happy.
is crazy
Right?
because as a child, your taste buds are
Are
electric.
cute. Nigga, you could, yeah, you could taste through your nasals, but it was just what it was. I'm like, and so I remember that. I just remember going to this big Mexican restaurant and just being so disappointed. It's, you travel more than I have internationally, so you know more about what to do. But maybe I
Okay,
went to like the white people restaurant. I
okay,
don't know.
I'll give you an example of this. When you're in countries in Asia, when you're in countries in Europe, even in Africa, what you find is that when you go to the market to buy local fruit, you wash it off and you eat it. And what you find out is that all the pesticides that they use on the foods that we
Man,
eat have
man,
totally killed the taste, have totally killed the flavor. Man, let me tell you something. When I first went to Europe and I bought an apple in the market and I bit into that shit, dude, it was like eating sunlight.
cornucopia.
It was like eating photosynthesis, like
Oh,
real sunlight. I'm like, dude, this is
Nick,
insane.
niggas like tongue kissing an angel.
I was
You just heard.
happy. I was happy and I was sad at the same time. I was like, wow.
Hey, dude, I just there's a black chick just did an article or whatever recording about this. I'm listening to her talk or reading the article, can't remember. And she talks about how she had been allergic to fruit for years. I'm like, what the fuck? How can a nigga be allergic to every fruit? So she takes a trip to the Caribbean. It wasn't Jamaica. One of these little countries in the Caribbean, and she's sitting there and it's all inclusive, and they're bringing this fruit out. She's like, it looks so good, but she knows she's allergic. But she's like, fuck it. I can't. I just taste it. I'll just deal with the consequence. And she said she ate and ate and ate fruit, never got sick, never threw up, never got diarrhea, never. She said I got none of the symptoms, and that's when she realized it was because of the pesticides, whether it's the Roundup, what's Roundup, the glyphosate, whether it's the glyphosate or whatever it is. She the grains because that glyphosate causes leaky gut. She said I ate and never got sick. And she said, just like what you said, like literally, she felt it energizing her instead of depleting her. You know what? That's the best way I can describe it. And so there's look, me and my brother just talked about this. Like where we're gonna go, retire, whatever. But wherever it is, I'm going someplace with some good fruit or where I can grow my own shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so important that people understand that this shit is making you sick. That a lot of these skin irritations, a lot of this ADHD or whatever I got, I don't know, that kind of shit. I'm sure some of this shit is just from diet and it's from the chemicals they put on there, and they're not. That shit don't benefit. I don't care how much bugs you kill. It's not worth it, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about how many weeds you stop from growing. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to your health. And so and when it comes to local knowledge, when you see people go out of town and eat fruit that they've never seen before, or they eat the same fruit and it has a completely different effect. Listen, my boy just told you, I've been into Apple, and that shit was layers of awesomeness. That that, that shit right there. So we talk about foods. Look, like for instance, like when me and my wife travel, I'm a nerd. I watch the cooking channel. So the first thing I did was we went to Puerto Rico. Is I want to go to these two the hotel where the pina colada was invented. Shit like that, and that shit is delicious. I know you don't eat pork, but the chilita con con, which is a Puerto Rican, is a huge pork chop with it has skins on it. It has the chicharrones attached to it still, and they season it different. Now, don't laugh. It's better in Miami. That shit is delicious down in Puerto Rico, but when you get to Miami, they add a few extra seasonings on that motherfucker, and you're like, oh my god, this is like the infidel special. I'm pissing off every Muslim I ever met. I'm crunching away eating this shit. Now we do have a Caribbean restaurant here in Omaha. They make a pretty good one, but it's like $52. But when you're down there, shit, that shit might be $20, and it's ecstasy. If you eat pork, you gotta have a chilita con con.
No, thank you. But check it out. So the deal with food, though. Okay, so as somebody who lives in Atlanta, who has lived all over the city, I enjoy good food, and
Period.
I can tell you where all the good food spots are based off of what your culinary preference is. So when people come to this city and they tell me, "Oh, there ain't no good pizza here," or they say,
What the hell?
"Oh, there ain't no good Mexican food here," or they say, "Oh, there's no good Japanese food here," I scoff. I'm like, "Ha, you're an idiot." So, and then I correct them and I give them a gazillion references to go and check out. Now, these references have been vetted by moi because I know good food.
I'm a connoisseur,
Blame that
motherfucker.
on my mama. So the thing is,
Again, people don't even know.
exactly. So the thing is that when people tell me this shit, oh man, the women in Atlanta are such and such and such and such, I'm like, hold up, dog. Where you going to meet these broads? Because I can tell you a Kroger grocery store where you got every flavor of baddie shopping there. I can tell you what day to go. I can tell you what time to go. I can tell you where to go find these broads. So
I'm
hold
yeah.
on. So
I
I'm
remember.
like, my dude, like you telling me this shit, it means you're just lazy as fuck, and you need to up your game and work on your recon. That's
People
local
ain't got
knowledge, my
game,
dude, right there.
and people can't. I went to local knowledge. The subway in not the subway in New York, but the subway in D.C. That is the international colors of Bennington. You'll get on the subway in D.C. and you'll see a beautiful black woman, and you talk to her. She has a fucking accent, or she don't even speak English at all. Like, where the fuck are you from? I'm from Belize. Or like, nigga, please. Like, so, and you'll see so many races. I don't want to use the word. You'll see so many people that are diverse, and it just that's what enlightens you to this whole black white thing is not what you think it is. There are people out there who look just like you, who speak different languages and do everything. So when you get on that subway, like they're going to work, they're cordial. I mean, just oh my god. So yeah, that was my eye-opening experience. I don't remember where I was at Union Station in D.C. going somewhere, and I'm like, this is fucking amazing. The other thing about D.C. DC is Chocolate City. DC is black. And I remember my uncle telling me, he said, yeah, the white folks disappear at 6 o'clock. Like, what are you talking about? Sure enough, white folks, when they get off work, they go to the suburbs in Maryland and Virginia. They get the fuck out of DC. Only niggas live in DC. Live in DC.
Who told you that? Uncle Greg?
No, that was Uncle Kenny. Because he lived, at the time he was in Maryland and he was in Virginia. And so I was going to visit him. And I went to visit him. He's like, nope. And here's the crazy part. I was in Upward Bound, but they would let you like leave at the back there. So my uncle came and got me. And he's like, yeah. And we went to get something to eat. It wasn't just soul food. It was so many. You had cake. It just so many different types of black food.
So
It wasn't just
I
soul
got into
food.
this fucking dispute with this cat on a job site, and he's like, "Man, I done lived in Los Angeles. I done lived. Atlanta is not a culinary city." I'm like, "You out of your
What the fuck
fucking mind, dude."
mine?
I said, "He's
What
like,"
the fuck are
I
you
said,
talking
"This
about?
motherfucker ain't never been to Buford Highway." Now, let
Nigga,
me
you
tell
took me
you.
to the Atlanta Fish Market that time. I mean,
Yes. But listen, but check it out though. And that wasn't even on Buford Highway. Let me put you up on game. So Buford Highway is where all of the immigrants live. It's where they have all their businesses.
businesses.
And so at one end you have the Spanish speaking people, and at the other end you have the Asians, and then at one point it blends in the middle. Okay? And you have all these different types of Asian restaurants, all these different types of Latino restaurants, and then you have African restaurants thrown in there. So, dude, you have shit like fucking Indonesian food. You have shit like fucking, everything. You have Indonesian food, you got Malaysian food, you got African, all different types of African food. You got Ethiopian, you got Nigerian, you got Senegalese, you got all that shit. You got different types of Mexican food. So it's not all the same shit. And I'm like, dude, I said, what you don't understand is that all these Michelin, he kept going on these Michelin rating. I said, buddy, if that's what you're going by, you're only going to find, a certain type of food. I said, what you got to understand is that the chefs in these restaurants, they go to Buford Highway, they go to these hole-in-the-wall places, and they steal their recipes and go and mark it up for 5 times more the price.
That's what made Anthony Bourdain so special when he started doing No Reservation and what I can't think of the other show he did before he killed himself. But he would go to the hole in wall spots. And you would go and get the most. And he he honed it. Like, hey, I know where to go. I know a guy. Local, hanging out with the locals. They tell you where to go. I remember where he went to Africa. I can't forgive me. I can't remember what it was, a coastal city, but they have a giant crayfish, giant crawdad that's in the freshwater, and he said it was, you see him eat this shit. I'm like, oh my god, it's ugly as hell. He's like, no, it's amazing because they're trying to build up the tourism. So that's their best whatever. And he's showing you this shit, and people don't understand like that Michelin star shit. I don't diss it, but I'm trying to tell you, it ain't everything. Joe Test didn't have a Michelin star, but I used to love some Joe Test. You know what I'm saying? That's local knowledge. There's certain restaurants that they might even make one thing really good, and that's another thing that when you watch Bourdain, like, hey, you might not like the sides, but this right here, this slaps, this kicks ass. That's what you're dealing with, and so. Sometimes local knowledge is what it. I'll give you an example. Like I'm not a big sushi fan, but there's a certain sushi that this one restaurant makes, Hot Popper. I love them motherfuckers. I can eat. I'll literally eat 6, 10 of them motherfuckers, and I'm cool. But then you go someplace else, they don't even have it. So that's what I realized. That's local. That is exclusive to that one menu. That's not a common thing. Now the Philly is everywhere, and the California roll is everywhere. And so sometimes you gotta realize what you like, and you do that by exploring. You do that by trying. You do that by going, taking a chance. And I think it's harder. I learned this when it came to my taste in music. Like when we were kids, we had limited resources, so we bought rap music not because it's because we liked it and it was consistent. But there's other music genres out there I like. I love blues. I wouldn't buy a blues album at the time because I was broke. So I was mostly getting certain things, but as you get older, you start to expand and you have more money. So you do buy the blues, you do buy the country, you do buy the rock, whatever, and you'll go buy a classic album because you can afford it. But when you're a kid, you're usually transfixed on one genre. And like back then, you would get 3 rap albums a month, and we were buying all 3. You know what I'm saying? Like I got Kumo D, okay, I got LL. So, but it's the same thing with food. As you get older, you're like, okay, I know I like this, but now I want to venture out. I want to see what this is really about. And like I said, like whenever we go out of the country, out of town or whatever, and I watch the Cooking Channel or the Food Network, I want to go to one of those restaurants because it's an amazing experience because you literally have spices that I've never tasted before. You literally have, oh damn, I didn't imagine it would be like that. That's that shit. And again, we just talked about the shit being, right out the ocean, the shit being fresh. That's another thing. Fresh seafood tastes sweet. Like being in the Midwest, I didn't have fresh seafood until I went to the, East Coast, West Coast, and then the Gulf. And then you're like, oh shit, this is amazing. Then you get back home, I want me a crab cake, or it don't taste the same because it's been. Yes, it took 8 weeks
in Denver and get sushi.
Agreed, but hell, I was in Denver at the time. But that's the whole thing. It takes 8 years for it to get there. So, but it tastes completely different.
But here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. There are places that have stuff flown in. The problem is that it's more expensive because you're basically paying for jet fuel, not just fish.
You're paying for transport. But like I said, this local knowledge thing is something that people take for granted. And also, I think, like for instance, like when you see New York, you think big city of dreams and all that shit. But they got rats everywhere, nigga. Big ass motherfucking rats. And you ain't seeing that when you watching these rap videos. Puffy and the family and getting rats. Big motherfucking cat-sized rats will scare the shit out you. And they come out, grab food, and go back in. That shit, you ain't hearing about that. That's that local knowledge. When you see that shit, don't be scared. That rat is not worried about you, I hope.
Right. So it's crazy with a guy like George Washington Carver and all the things that he created. He had local knowledge, but he took this local knowledge and distributed it to the world. So
he made local knowledge. Yeah, that's deep.
You know what I mean? But in rap music, we do that also because we take the local knowledge and make it into a song, and then put people up on game about what's happening.
And that was the whole point of the NWA, not realizing that the police brutality wasn't a local thing. when they made that song, they didn't realize that it would resonate in Nebraska, in
Every
in
place,
Arkansas,
every place outside of California.
yeah, every place that had black folks and police, that there were aggravated encounters that you didn't realize. So that's why that song got traction. When you hear Q talking about everybody knew the words to our song, but that song was never on the radio. You feel me?
No,
Never got
ever. And so
ever.
that's one thing. There's people like that are alive. Well, excuse me. Young people today don't understand how it was rare to get hip hop on the radio. And then when it was on the radio, it was in this short little spectrum of like maybe an hour or hour and a half on the weekend when a DJ would come on and spin some stuff. And that would be like, the Friday night show with DJ, blah, blah, blah. And then he would just go off playing like dope ass music. But you had to wait all the way to the weekend to
You
hear
had to
that
wait
shit.
months. How about when Video Soul would have a rap day, or Video Vibrations would have a rap day, and then it became a rap week. You itching for a scratch, and you would get rap, and me and you would argue like, "Hey, what about this? Well, hey, I just saw this video. Man, you ain't seen Kumo D new video, nigga." That kind of shit. It was so few and far between, and then it just kept gaining momentum and got bigger and bigger. But yeah, people don't understand. Like you had a struggle to hear rap music. You had a struggle.
Or music videos, and how you would have to record it on VHS and then play it back for your friends. Like, yo, I know y'all didn't see this shit the other day, but this is that new Leaders of the New School scenario video. Look at this shit. You know what I'm saying?
And then when Video Jukebox came out, we were kind of transitioning to high school to college, and I just remember Video Jukebox, and they would pick the
that shit was always hard to like fucking find anyway. Like it wasn't something that was like easy to fucking just go to a channel and fucking. You had to know where this shit was.
No, local knowledge, because you would have to know what channel was on, and it might have been syndicated. So if you wanted to get your video on there, you had to call when the show was being made, and then syndication would show it. And like I remember the biggest video on Unlab, the biggest video on Video Jukebox at the time was "Put 'Em on the Glass" by Sherm Mix-a-Lot. It was a titty video, and I remember my homegirl was like, y'all don't understand. I got big titties and no ass, and it's really important that they make videos. Like, I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, it is. She's like, yeah, because there's nothing but booty videos, but nobody has a video for the
Go to the gym and do some squats. You'll be fine.
Look, but it was so funny because she was like, yeah, "Put 'Em on the Glass" was the first. I'm like, in fact, I had told her about it because she had said that to me. I'm like, I know a video you'll like. Come on, check this out. Come watch Video Jukebox with me. And sure enough, "Put 'Em on the Glass." And that nigga had Vipers. That nigga had Ferraris. That nigga had Lamborghinis.
Yeah, because he had just blown up from Baby Got Back. You know what I'm saying? So he wanted another hit, and he's like, all right, well, I already talked about ass, and I'm going to talk about titties.
Titties.
Because I'm a titties and ass man.
My posse on Broadway. See, people don't even...
My posse's on Broadway, yeah.
Broadway and Hoopty and Beepers. We grew up on him doing that. So... even when people get the idea that Mix-a-Lot, he's a one-hit wonder. That's nigga.
And then the crazy part is that like he's from Seattle,
yes,
so
yes.
I understand when people are like, yo, there's black people in Seattle. I'm like, yeah, because the same people would ask me the same question when I went somewhere in high school.
Omaha, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm from Omaha. Omaha, yeah, Malcolm X, motherfucker. As soon as I said it, they'd be like, oh. As soon as you say Malcolm X, people are like, oh.
Yeah, they shut the fuck up.
And that's another topic because, like, where you from? When people ask you about where you from and they don't know nothing about it, you are an ambassador. You are an ambassador to your culture, to your tribe, to your village, to your neighborhood, to your city, because you can answer all the questions that these people have. Now, if you come with some ignorant ass bullshit, then that's going to be a horrible first impression for your city because, like, man, this dude is a moron.
Hey, look, the one thing I hate about Oklahoma is everybody from Oklahoma swore that everybody else was from Oklahoma. And, like...
Well, listen. Okay, but here's the thing, though. Then this old punk-ass nigga named Hype Williams came out with this movie called Belly, and he probably got his ass beat by some nigga from Omaha. And he painted people from Omaha as clowns in this movie. And he created this story. He created this story that made people think that New York niggas could come to Omaha and just take it over. No, my dude. And the reason why is because of gangs. That shit would never fucking happen.
Okay, here's New York niggas. They love to run up and down the East Coast. They really didn't venture inland. They would do the East Coast with their drug
But
deals.
see, I was having the same conversation with a dude from New York. And listen, and this dude he was in the music industry, and he's like, and he agreed. He was like, New York niggas got ego, and they think they can go anywhere, and they just gonna rule some shit. I said, bruh, I seen a lot of New York niggas get their ass beat, get stomped because they think they're gonna just roll up in a place and take shit over because it's New York. And I'm like, bruh, that's where you from, but this is where you at now, and it's a whole different thing over here.
On the flip side, Cali, they went there and set up shop there. And Cali niggas brought the drug trade to all these other places. New York would just, like I said, they fuck with the East Coast. But Cali, like, nope, I'm going to Arkansas. Cali, I'm going to Colorado. Nope, I'm going to Nebraska. And them Cali niggas would bring that gang shit with them and start selling drugs.
But the first wave was crushed. And the first wave was crushed by...
The niggas are Chicago.
Yes.
Like cops.
Exactly.
The cops killed
Tell the story.
No, me and you grew up, and we grew up in Omaha, Nebraska.
And we would always hear about vice lords. Like, who the fuck is these motherfuckers?
Vice lords and disciples. Because Chicago gangs are arrogant too. See?
But this is the thing, though. When I was a kid, I came across some of these people. And being a martial artist, I'm like, nigga, do you have some superpowers? Because you're like a regular-ass dude to me.
I got two stories about that. So when the vice lords and disciples came to Omaha, cops find out. Cops dropped them niggas off the bridge.
No. They didn't get dropped off the bridge. They were thrown off the bridge. Now, let me tell you something. You may or may not survive this fall, depending on where they're throwing you at off this bridge.
But when you hear that shit, people think that's a joke. Like, no, that's what stopped the Chicago gangs from hitting Omaha.
Now, check this out. Now, those are probably white cops that did that shit. But let me tell you something. To me, that doesn't come off as a racial thing.
No.
That comes off as cops seeing this as like, oh, you think you're going to bring that shit in here and fuck this city up? No. Your ass got to go home. Yeah.
Well, but okay, so like I said, when you had these conversations, the one thing about the niggas from Cali, most of them niggas could fight. They weren't about the jump. They weren't about the stomping somebody. They were like about a fair one, straight up. And so you would see like niggas from Cali fight, but niggas from Chicago, I never experienced so many of them niggas that could fight. Now, I'm just being honest with you. They was always about stomping somebody, jumping somebody. Same thing with the New York niggas. They like, now, I will tell you a story about some East Coast niggas from Connecticut. So I'm in college, and these niggas, there were three big niggas. They were called the Yos. We call them Yo because they go, oh, yo, hey, yo, what's up, yo, hey, what's up? And so it's the flip side with these niggas. These niggas had seen some bad shit. And so their mom sent them to college because I think two were brothers, one was a cousin, excuse me. And so like they getting their lives together. And these motherfuckers beat the shit out. I went to school in Oklahoma, went to Langston University. So you have about 5 or 6 niggas call themselves Bloods that try to jump on these niggas. And they pick the raw. Them ain't the niggas that you fuck with. Local knowledge. These Connecticut niggas could bang and they were huge. And so I seen these niggas beat fuck out of 5 niggas. Beat it. I'm like, I think what they thought was because this is the problem with rap music. So when you watch rap music, you think niggas from Cali are this. You think niggas from here are this. You think niggas from there are this. You don't hear about niggas from Connecticut. So you got these Oklahoma niggas who want to be gang members who decided like, okay, we got some easy we got easy ones right
Which
here.
is the irony of this entire fucking belly thing, because with the whole belly thing, I'm like, oh, it sound like you talking about people from Oklahoma and not from Omaha.
No, So, and that's I got a funny story about Oklahoma and Omaha, but I'll tell you that in a second. So these niggas from Oklahoma thought, because they never heard of Connecticut, they don't understand that it's a tri-state area. It's Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. They don't understand that these niggas beat the fuck. I seen these niggas just, what they did was they proceeded to take their shirts off and said, you hit me enough. My cousin, right? And they just, nigga got stomped. Other nigga, they tried to run, went and got him, brought him back, beat the fuck out in the gym. I'm like, oh, this is a massacre. But
what's great about that is there was nobody stopping it.
Oh, no. Okay, Langston had two police officers, three police officers. They wouldn't have stopped that shit. They waited. That shit was done, nigga. Shit, y'all finished? I gotta put handcuffs on you. You understand? Like, yeah, I got it. But the point is that when it comes to that kind of shit, is that since you never heard of that place, or you ain't seen a rap video, or you ain't seen a nigga from that place, you think they soft, and that's what I dealt with being from Omaha. Niggas would like, oh, you from Omaha? Okay, cool. And then when I beat somebody's ass, and it was so funny, this nigga had a black eye for a semester, and they would say, don't make me go get rented. They would fuck. I'm like, stop fucking with this nigga, because he keep trying to come out. So him and his homeboy tried to jump me one time. So I'm coming out the shower. They followed me out the shower to my room. I'm like, are you serious? So I yelled. I'm like,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. What was your question?
No, you finish your story.
They were trying to jump me. I talked them out of it. I said, unless you want to look like your homeboy, stop right now. I yelled a couple times. I'm like, look. And the thing was, I knew they were going to try to jump me. So what I did was I lined up vinegar, Clorox, and alcohol at 3 cups. Because I knew, like, these motherfuckers walking in, I'm going to throw this in their face. And then I said, I'll talk myself out of it. Let me go take a shower. And they, sure enough, followed me from my room. And I took a shower trying to jump me. I talked them out of it. I said, it's not a good idea. No.
So, The Art of War, Sun Tzu, talks about 5 classes of spies. There is the local spy, the inward spy, converted spy, doomed spy, and surviving spies. And each one of these spies has a different level of information based on their attachment to a certain area or their access to a certain area. So these different types of spies, they can basically give you the level of information that you're trying to get. So an inward spy makes use of officials of the enemy. Converted spies, they get hold of the enemy spies and use them for their own purposes. A doomed spy does certain things openly for the purpose of deception, allowing the spies that you are using and report them to the enemy. So they're like a straw man.
Yeah.
And then surviving spies are those who bring back news from the enemy's camp. So you have different levels of spies. And these are all different levels of local knowledge, although it's intelligence gathering. Yeah. So it's crazy how, there can be layers upon layers upon layers of this stuff, but it's all useful when you're gathering information. And that relates to what we're talking about, how local knowledge is important.
I think we take it for granted because, when you watch TV, you put things in a box. Oh, they're this, or they're tall, or they're short, or they're this. And then you get there and you find out, oh, that's not even the case, nigga. I think that we've been misled, or I think we just try to conveniently categorize something because it makes it easier for you to deal with. And then you realize, and you get out there, it ain't like that, or the food's delicious, or the people are great. Yeah, how many times you watch all these TV shows about how New Yorkers are jerks, and New Yorkers actually are pretty helpful. I haven't really dealt with too many jerks in New York.
It's just the environment that they live in.
Yeah, but then you go down south and you hear about the Southern hospitality, and these motherfuckers don't look you in the face. I'm like, God damn it, I need directions.
It depends on where you are. Again, see, that's another thing about local knowledge. So a person will come to the South and they'll go to a city in the South where there's different types of people, different styles of driving the vehicles, transplants and all this stuff. There's levels of agitation with locals versus transplants. Then you have gentrification on top of that. So you won't get no Southern hospitality in a city. But then when you go outside the city, go 45 minutes. And the reason why I say 45 minutes, it doesn't matter if it's Atlanta, if it's Birmingham, if it's Charlotte, if it's Raleigh, go 45 minutes outside of these cities. And that's far enough that you get to a rural area where people will look you in the face and they'll speak to you with a level of respect. That is what you get when you get away from the city. But again, the flip side of that, okay, I bet none of the jobs around there pay well. Unless it's, somebody working in the trades. This circles back to the beginning of our conversation about the money that you make in the city versus the countryside in the South. Or not even just the South, but in the Midwest, in the Northeast, on the West Coast, in the Northwest. It's all depends on location and where you are. And matter of fact, local knowledge will determine how good your pay is, because you know where the money is. You have to have local knowledge to know where the money is, how to go make the money, where disposable income is. Dude,
Entertainment,
I don't live in
lifestyle.
areas that don't have some form of disposable income circulating through the local economy, because that is free flowing money. When you don't have a certain level of disposable income circulating through the local economy, it's tight, man. It's real tight, and you're not gonna make. There's not a lot of people going to go see live musical performances.
Yes, that's beautiful.
There's not a lot of people going to enjoy the arts. There's not a lot of museums in that area. The education level isn't that high in that area. Um, these are the side effects of capitalism, of thriving capitalism. So when people talk shit about, capitalism is a bad idea, like, hey man, you're an idealist. And that shit that you want on the other side, take your ass to Cuba, take your ass to these failed states, and you tell me how it's going. Tell me, go spend some time in Venezuela fighting for rice, and let me know how it's going 3 weeks in. Or these rolling blackouts where you just have electricity for like 1 hour every day, and just taking baths in cold water. Let me know how that goes.
Shit, the problem with that shit is you're making a strong warrior. Y'all need to be careful about what y'all ask for, because y'all gonna fuck around and get these master motherfuckers coming out of nowhere who are in great shape, ain't afraid of shit. You see these African leaders are finally getting that shit together, and like, now I care about my people. I'm not worried about this oil money. You can't operate here. We're building our own refineries. You see that this shit's coming. Now, I'm sure they're gonna get assassinated. You mark my words. Ask Gaddafi. Oh wait, you can't ask Gaddafi. He's dead.
But see, that comes back to the local knowledge in Sun Tzu. How, okay, if you do have spies and you do have people watching people, you know who to hire and who's going to turn, so you don't put that turncoat motherfucker in a job where he's going to put your ass in jeopardy.
Well, it's not just Sun Tzu. Don't forget about the Haitian Revolution, where they killed those fucking sympathizers. Like, oh, you like Napoleon? Nigga, fuck that.
Gone.
You ain't gonna make it.
Gone. Your ass is gone, motherfucker. Like, that's it. But these are all important things, because when it comes to this local knowledge, I mean, it's just something as simple as terrain. Do you move your family or yourself into a floodplain? Hell no. The answer is no. Are you going to build a house in an area that you know floods? Are you going to buy a house in the area that floods? If you got sense, no, you won't. Because that's going to be a problem. Water is the patient enemy. And it just destroys shit. And it'll just wait and drip and drop until it builds up enough to fucking destroy everything. And guess what? Water is also mold.
Hey, no, that's deep. But no, dude was just talking about, he said, if you're about to buy some land, wait till it rains, because it doesn't behave the same way. Like, you see this land, oh, it's great. But then like you said, it could be on a floodplain. It could have water that you don't expect. Could have drainage issues, excuse me. And when you have drainage issues, that shit has to be paid to do a slope and get it fixed.
Graded. It has to be graded.
Graded, yeah. It's like 2% grade, that kind of shit. And so that's the issue, that he's like, look, if you're about to buy some undeveloped property, is that you need to see what happens when it rains. You need to turn the water on yourself and watch where it runs to. That's the shit that's that intimate knowledge that not having could cost you millions. There could be a reason that they didn't build there. Me and Roscoe grew up. There was a thing I called it empty lot. He called it a field. There was a huge field about it's 1 square block. They just didn't build over there. And when I was a kid, my dad told me the water table's too high. They can't build there. Now
my dad said that.
Yeah, my dad told me too when I was a little kid. Like, hey, I was 2.
But now there's houses on that water table. Those people don't have basements there. Me and Duct Tape grew up with basements. Those houses that are built on that water table do not have basements. Now, one thing I noticed, I'm not sure if you picked up on this, where was the biggest tree in our neighborhood?
Oh, that's a tough one.
No, it's simple. It was right there in that
In the middle.
field. In the middle of, you know why? Because it was just feeding on the water below. And listen,
See,
let me tell y'all something. This tree was huge.
it's about 5 to 10 feet. Like
No.
circumference.
This
You
tree,
could put your arms around.
this tree was, you couldn't put your arms around it. It was about the
Yeah, not at
size
all.
of like a Prius. It was
Yeah,
about the
I was
diameter of
gonna,
a Prius.
I was going to say Volkswagen because I'm old, but Prius. But the little, I know what tree you're talking about because the other big trees were right there on the hill coming down from Fontenelle. You know, the weeping willows, and those were big trees.
You
But
know
the
what else
biggest
they
tree,
didn't do? They did not grade that hill. They did not flatten the hill.
oh no,
They
no.
kept it a
See,
hill.
well, look. Here's the deal. If you have a high water table, it will come into your basement. It ain't got nothing to do with rain. That water, it might take years, but that water is eventually going to come. Now, you can treat it and whatnot, but say that foundation cracks, it's going to pour in. And that
Unless somebody puts a well, they start digging wells around there and people start taking the water out of the ground, then that won't happen.
look, like I said, I remember my mom and my dad telling me when I was a kid that you can't build over there. I remember your dad saying that they like the water. I'm like, how do y'all know this? But so that tells you right there that I don't. They were more worried about profit than in people getting those nice houses and moving there, and they thought they did shit. At some point in time, one of the motherfuckers is gonna get snake bit, because I'm telling you, I was
What happened is that Holy Name, the fucking church, the Catholic Church, bought that
yeah,
land. And I
and
was
put
so
houses
pissed
on
off.
it.
I'm like, why does the Catholic Church even have this money? And why are they fucking building these houses?
No, okay, they're trying to they're helping people. Now, one of our homeboys has a house that they built. His mortgage, like if he misses his mortgage, they don't foreclose.
Yeah, but I didn't give a shit. And I still don't give a shit because they tore down my personal paradise where you used to
That's a
fucking
whole
play. Dude, I was
nigga. That's a whole other
I was
conversation.
so bitter when they fucking tore the woods down, bruh.
That's a whole other conversation, nigga. Playboy magazines, fucking digging
Bike
holes,
ramps,
chasing them, just jumping shit. Yeah, nigga,
all
that
different
was my
types of wars.
that's my Craig of the Creek right there, nigga.
That was our Craig of the Creek. 100%. That was our Craig of the Creek, and they fucking demolished that shit. I think we were like probably 14. It was in junior high school when it happened.
I thought it was later than that because I remember the first house being built, but I don't remember it catching fire till we were gone. Like we came back from college, like, oh, this house is all down, this motherfucker.
They caught on fire.
No, I'm just saying that they started building stuff. I remember they built one or two houses that were decent, like new houses. Then I remember coming back from college, and the whole thing is developed now. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, and I'm like, damn.
But you know what's funny though? That water table is just contained to that area because when they were building the scatter site houses, Carlos's and Junebug's and Lovey and Joe and Lovey in them house, I was going and playing in these houses while they were building them.
Yeah,
So they built these duplexes across the street from my house.
Yep.
And they put all these people from the projects in these houses and shit. Section 8 motherfuckers. And before the people moved into the house, you know, the kids, we would just go and play in these houses. I still remember the smell of the wood, of the lumber that was used. You know what I'm saying? And like, and the smell of the fresh concrete that was poured. I still had that smell in my memory. And so I remember going and playing in what will become Junebug's basement before they even, you know, finished the house and shit. So the water table is only right there in that area on the corner.
Okay, no.
Now I'm gonna tell you, hold it. I'm gonna tell you another strange thing. Water underground, along with limestone, causes appearances of ghosts.
The limestone, yeah, it resonates.
Now,
it has energy.
yes, it's moving energy and it creates a magnetic field. In the wintertime, I could go stand right there at the corner in the middle of the street by the manhole cover next to it, and I would be warm. For some reason, it was warm right there. And this was it's probably like a 3 feet diameter, 6 feet tall. And I could stand right there in the middle of the winter, snow on the ground, just like it is right now, and be warm.
Look,
I've told you about this a bunch of times.
If you look at where that big tree was, and if you look how the grade was, that water ran down the middle of that field, and it ran to the corner where remember where Brayman used to have his garden?
The corn.
If you paid
that corn that grew there was tall,
7 feet tall, easily. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, that water.
I don't even think he knew that shit.
All I know is I think it came from like the back of Russell's house and ran down there.
Because behind that, the street divided that hill from an even taller hill, which had a willow
yes,
tree at the top that we would swing from.
that's where the school
And in the
was.
wintertime, it would be covered with snow, and we would sled down there like
Oh, we was like a
daredevils.
motherfucker.
Like we would sled down to our near deaths.
Yeah, because cars couldn't stop.
And dude, like we doing about 40 miles an hour down this hill.
Not even. But so, like I said, but the middle of that is where that water. And like I said, again, this is local knowledge. We grew up, everybody telling us that water table's too high. The water table's too high. And I'm like, I don't know what that table is, but that water is on it, you know. And so, because you're a kid, you don't know what that shit means. So I know they built them houses there. You can't tell me at some point in time that they ain't gonna have issues. It's just what it is. And again, like I said, don't discount local knowledge, and don't sit here and like, oh, this guy's a country bumpkin, or this guy's a city slicker, or this guy's this, or this girl's that, because you know
they
got some
know
information
something that you don't.
that you
And
need.
that's the problem, is that ego denies people access to valuable information. You got to drop the ego a lot to get access to the information that can help you and heal you sometimes. And so in these areas, there's stuff that you should be looking at, especially like if you're buying property. Find out,
Well,
go to your local agricultural extension agent, to their office, and ask them for a map of the water table. And you can see where the water tables
yeah,
are in that area.
there's
And
two
also you
things.
can find out where the floodplain is and where that sits in the floodplain and what the actual elevation is of your area.
But you're talking about soil and water. Water. Dr. Sebi, remember he built his Eurasia village in Honduras. He said people like, well, do you know why? Because the water it's naturally alkaline at 9 whatever, and it has those minerals in it. Think about Tennessee. Don't laugh. So the soil in Tennessee is very similar to those places in France. You can grow truffles in Tennessee. They're growing truffles in Tennessee because the soil composition, which you talked about earlier, is the same as it is in France. So they got white truffles and black truffles growing in Tennessee right now. Now, if you want to do it, you got to buy these trees. They spray the fungus on the roots, and you plant them. It takes 7 years for this shit. You don't even know the shit's going to work. But the bottom line is that has to do with this soil composition. You wouldn't know that unless you spoke to a local. You wouldn't know that they have truffle farms in parts of Tennessee making 32,000 a bushel. Money. But yeah, so like I said, don't discount that local knowledge, and don't be arrogant, and also pay attention. There's jewels out there.
So when you're going to an area that you don't know nothing about, talk to some locals or find somebody that has posted information online about the local area that you can gather intelligence from and be more effective in your campaign or whatever it is you're doing. Look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.